So Simone, what does a Monday normally look like?
Monday's normally a finish at about 7, so a couple of hours left. But it's not been too bad today.
Cool.
It's not been as hectic as I expected, which is nice.
And you're not going to do that trip for much longer after last time?
I think I'm next due to go out in theory in March, but yeah, I have said, is it necessary? So
right. Well, hey everybody, welcome to those starting to trickle in. My name is Dan. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Cadence, and we've got Simone Fenton-Jarvis, the author extraordinaire of the Human-Centric Workplace Playbook. We're going to get started in just a few minutes and let other people join, but we're talking about Simone's dramatic return to the UK from Canada at the weekend, and tornadoes and coronaviruses and all sorts.
Yeah, fun times. Like, I think I forgot, like, throughout the pandemic situation, how tiring traveling was. I think you just kind of, I don't know, like, even just going out for a day to a conference, you're like, right, okay, what do I need to pack? What do I need to take with me? How long is it going to take me to leave the house? It's
Well, I think it's amazing introvert time, actually, going back traveling.
Yeah.
Getting on a plane again, having the introvert hours. You know, I've got three little kids and a business, and it's having that introvert time is massive.
I'm with you totally. Yeah, I'm in a hotel by a week by myself, and everyone's like, "You're not bored?" I was like, "I'm having the best time." Just reading, just relaxing, and not having to talk to people for a change. It's quite nice.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to those carrying on joining. Again, my name's Dan. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Cadence. We are helping people unlock their rhythm for hybrid working. And I'm also joined by Simone Fenton-Jarvis, who is, as we mentioned, author extraordinaire. We're going to talk about her new best-selling. Are you best-selling yet? Come on, where are we up on the best-sellingness?
I've not got an update yet. I think I get one after like 3 months, just to account for returning books and things, but it's still sold out on Amazon, so I guess that's a good sign.
Okay. And for those joining, you will get a copy as well, I think later this week, details of which will be sent through, your digital copy of Simone's new book. Well, let's get started. We're a few minutes past the hour. Simone, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining today. And we've got half an hour to discuss, a little bit of a shorter one today, or half an hour to discuss your new book and what's going on in your world from a workplace perspective. But just as we get started, welcome to everybody. We've got a mixture in the audience today of workplace managers, workplace facilitators, IT, HR. We've got a real mix of people on the call today. So thank you so much for joining. As ever, please ask your questions in the chat. That should come up shortly. We'll have 10 minutes or so at the end to ask Simone any questions that you guys might have. Simone, so much to talk about: your new book, new variants, new years. But tell us a little bit about who you are and what your book's about.
Yeah, so Simone, I guess start with my career today. I've started in facilities management, and then over the years kind of naturally progressed into the workplace realm, doing more and more working with HR into employee experience. Today I work as a consultant for Relogics, which ultimately I'm helping organisations understand their data that exists in the company. And then, during lockdown, I wrote a book. So it's the Human-Centric Workplace, and ultimately it's how to create the environment of the workplace, taking into account space, people, technology, and process, to create that environment that humans thrive in. And off the back of the creating that environment, how it impacts communities and how it's beneficial for the planet as well, right through to how wages and paying taxes impacts different communities as well. So it's all connected, and way more connected than most people, I guess, have realised previously.
Simone, when we started building Cadence, our hybrid working product, very quickly we realized that this really wasn't about the office. The future of the work involved the office, but that the product needed not to be about the office. And you're kind of getting towards that when you talk about, what does it mean for the human-centric workplace? What does it mean to be human at work? Talk us through some of your thinking there.
Yeah, sure. I think, when I say human-centric workplace, I think people are going to pick it up and think it's about a physical workplace. Well, workplace is the physical, the digital, wherever you're working is your workplace at that point. We've all got our kind of workspace that we are functioning in. So I think from what it means to be a human at work, it's, how can you best bring your whole self and your best self to do your role that you're doing and to thrive as a human being. I think, that comes from a social point of view and doing good for the planet, but, ultimately to be treated at work in a way that you're not just a cog in a machine, existing for financial success of a company. And that's basically what it is in a nutshell.
Got it. And it's Monday morning for me in the San Francisco Bay Area, Monday evening for you in the UK. So I don't want to get too meta too quickly, too early on in the week. But you talk a little bit about Aristotle claiming that humans meant to have a goal and a purpose. I studied theology, and they talk about the meaning of man being fully alive. What does fully alive look like? What does that humanness look like for you? Because obviously, are we talking self-actualization at work? I thought work was just supposed to provide for my needs, and then I go have my life outside of work. Come on, so what's going on there? You're telling me it's all related and interconnected?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at the beginning of our kind of evolution, I guess it would, being human was easy. It was like you're existing to avoid being eaten and to eat, depending on, what kind of philosophical basis you've come from. But I
So
think,
it's about survival. It's about just surviving,
yeah,
and you're saying it's not about that now. It's just
yeah, no, I think as kind of we've evolved, I think, we now everything's just intertwined, and it's our, everything that happens at work impacts us outside of work, so it can't be separate. Depending on what your day at work's been like, what time you're finishing, and how much energy you've got, is going to determine how much patience and energy you've got for your kids when you go home, and if you can be bothered to cook a meal or you can do something quick, and if you're going to go to the gym, it's all connected to them energy levels. And then when you get to weekend, are you living for the weekend? Because if we are, with something wrong, we can't spend 5 days a week living for the weekend. That's
yeah. And how do there's a whole mixture of organizations on here representing government through to tech companies. Some companies might be more, people might aspire to work for some of these companies more than others, perhaps. Some people might just be turning up to these companies on a daily basis or logging in every day going, I'm just literally here for the paycheck. I'm not aligned to the vision, the mission, the strategy. Kind of how do managers, how do leaders on this call think about bringing their team along to a higher purpose and a higher goal? Because you've probably seen the report. We discussed this at our webinar last week. McKinsey are talking about the number one reason people are leaving organizations right now is because of them feeling misaligned or not aligned at all, / disconnected from their vision, the mission of the workplace, and also of their employees, so of their fellow co-workers. So talk us through how do you bring that to life inside of an organization?
Yeah, I think you have to communicate. It goes back to knowing your people and communication. And I think once you know your people and what motivates them and what they're looking from their role, if it's not to remain engaged in the purpose or anything like that, then it's up to you to turn that on its head. How can you get people engaged in that purpose? And I think, it's about how each individual person plays a part in that mission of that company. We all kind of, are building blocks to that kind of organizational goal. So, people should care. And if they don't care, then you're running the risk, I guess, of disengagement, recruitment, retention issues further down the line. When the chips are down, as you'd say in the UK, who's going to dig in deep and who's going to actually just go, I finished at 5 o'clock, I'm leaving, thanks, bye. You want them people that are gonna stay a little bit later if it's needed, and go home earlier the next day if that's possible. So it's got to be about give and take, and I think that goes back to knowing your people and communication.
And many of our customers, I think, will be dealing with that, but a large majority of them as well will be dealing with overworking. It's been super interesting reading about the rhythms, cadences people are trying to get in, even in remote settings, to manage their days and their own mental health. How do we, on the other side, the flip side, how do we make sure that we're not overworking as well? Because there's one thing that I talk about here at Cadence. Sometimes there are wartime, sometimes there's a wartime season, and sometimes there's a peacetime season. And it's crucial, I think, for anybody leading themselves to be able to tell what season they're in. Are they in wartime season? And yes, they do need to pull out a few extra hours here, or are they in peacetime season and they don't need to be addicted to the god of productivity? How do you manage and navigate that, particularly with younger people that are joining the workforce for the first time, that perhaps aren't being exposed to leadership in the same way they might have done previously?
Yeah, I think the best thing that we can do for our people is to educate them. And I think it goes back to knowing that self-awareness, knowing yourself, knowing when you get into that point of, you don't want to get to being burnt out. You want to get to the feeling of, I feel a bit overwhelmed. I need to take some time out now. I don't want to get burnt out. And I think not only just self-awareness, but coach and mentor in the workplace is crucial. And I think from a leader, it's again communication. A lot of it goes back to communication at the moment. I think it's, if a manager sends a Slack message on a Saturday evening, or any other kind of instant messaging tool, if they send a message on a Saturday evening, they're not necessarily saying to a person that you must read it on a Saturday evening. That's when it's worked best for them. And I think it's up to the organisation saying, there's no pressure to respond out of hours. You respond when you're working, and this is the working patterns. And I think you've got to have them kind of really solid foundations in place.
Yeah, that's super interesting. One of the things we've done at Cadence is that so we banned internal email. So internal email is actually banned. Everybody has to communicate on Slack, A, or B, they have to communicate around the work. So what that means is, if you're working on a project, you're not allowed to talk about that project on Slack or on email. You have to talk about that project where that project is happening. So if it's a financial plan, then it needs to be talked about on Google Sheets or on Microsoft Excel with a colleague. If it's a presentation, it needs to be talked about on Google Slides in the chat on the project. And we have hits and misses, I think, with it, but by and large, there's a nice flow, because it's this activity-based work that I know you talk about, being taken to another degree of actually communicating and talking around that piece of work, rather than being detached and having the email on the financial forecast and then flipping over to Excel, being like, well, why isn't it all in one place? But you mentioned that interesting piece about expectations. You're on a plane on the weekend. I know for me, being on a plane is an amazing opportunity to catch up with myself, right? And catch up with work. But then again, I land on a Saturday and my team might have an inbox or Slack inbox full of messages. I'm not expecting them to respond at that time. In fact, I've actually got notifications for email and Slack turned off on my phone. So I'm not always checking it or not being interrupted by it. But how do you think you practically build that in? Because I know that in some of my peers, they have Slack for this asynchronous, you can respond anytime, but here it is. And then it's WhatsApp and it's text if it's urgent. And that's something that we've always had like this. If it's urgent, text, WhatsApp. If there's a fire, how do you do that with the companies that you're consulting for?
Yeah, so it depends on the size of the company, I guess. There's definite challenges, not even just size, actually, the vertical that they're in, and also the country. So you can take, our HQ is in Ottawa. They actually passed some legislation a few weeks ago in Canada that was, you're not allowed to contact your team members outside of their working hours. Now, for me,
So practically, does that mean you've now got to calculate when they're in office? So does that mean you're doing a send later and then maths on your maths on your fingers, like send later -6 or whatever? What do you do, or +6?
Well, we just are getting in the flow of it really, because it came a little bit kind of blindsided us all. So at the moment we kind of carrying on as normal, and it's more of a we're trying to get to grips with what it means for us, I guess. And leaders have had some guidance as well. But I think that practical element of how does that work across time zones, and how does that work when people are working in different ways. You'll see on the bottom of my email, I'm not a 9 to 5er. I never have been a 9 to 5er. And if I wake up in the morning and I feel a bit groggy, why would I turn my laptop on and start working? Why do I not just go to the gym, get some food, sort myself out, and work later into the evening and when I'm more productive? So I think when we have to legislate, for me, there's been a breakdown in the culture of the organisation and the communication, and in society, because we need to come away from this kind of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
That
It's difficult though, right? I mean, because my view would be, yeah, I'm all up for you going to the gym to make yourself feel better and more productive for work. Like, that's absolutely fine, unless I'm relying on you that morning. Like, unless you're pumping out a document for some lawyers or whatever it is that's time consuming or time dependent. I'm like, so that's the kind of thing that we say at Cadence is work wherever you want to, whenever you want to, but know that we work as a team and we're relying upon everybody to be available to hit certain goals. And so there's this kind of understanding that, I don't know, there's this core hours, I guess, kind of understanding where there is crossover. We go from Holland through to San Francisco in terms of time zones. So yeah, fascinating stuff. And you've been getting to know obviously different teams. Just looking at a question from Anne here as well coming in. You've been getting to know different teams. You've recently joined a new company in the last half a year or so, I think. How have you gotten to know your colleagues? You had your first experience meeting them face to face last week for many of them. How do you get to know your colleagues? What did it feel like meeting face to face, and how would you recommend to practitioners in a remote setting you get to know one another? One of the favorite phrases I have about from a basketball coach here in the US is, a team is people you are certain of. Team is a group of people you're certain of, and I love that description. How do you create that?
Yeah, so I've always onboarded people remotely, and then it was the first time I experienced it back in July. And I think it was now the first time that I can have true empathy with the people that I've previously onboarded remotely. It was hard. It was the kind of at first it felt like you was going on calls to do the thing, but then there was no social interaction in between it. I think I found it particularly difficult to come
Quite
off
transactional.
come off a customer call as well, and not being able to have a debrief with my team that I've just been on a call with. And I think after a month or so, it was right. Okay, we need to get into a better flow than this. So it's now to build relationships. Slack has been crucial. We've got channels that are like fun stuff and different social stuff on the channels. So it's building more of a relationship. I went out and met my team in September, and then I went again last week. So I think that meeting them quarterly is a definite benefit. Just having the chitter chatter that you just don't generally get time to do in the working day. And I know that's kind of utopia, because that's not going to be available for everybody. But I think going back to even just using the huddle function on Slack, just having them kind of random chats with people. If people are on green, just drop in. You can carry on working actually while you're chatting. You don't have to stop. So I think just doing what you would normally do in an office and trying to replicate it in that virtual environment.
Yeah. One of the things we're looking to do, or have been doing, is getting into a regular cadence of meetings. So from my team here in the Bay Area, meeting once or twice a week, finding a location, meeting once or twice a week. We're also hearing many of our customers and peers doing off-site, on-site, so treating your workplace as an off-site location as well. And those quarterly meetings, I think that we're onboarding new folks today in the US. And so, they will get a call with me tomorrow. They'll go around heads of departments this week using Zoom, Google Slides, through all the onboarding materials, getting set up, that feel of receiving the laptop and being a part of the community and team as well. They'll get welcomed at our all hands on Thursday. One of the things we love to do is we always ask people the most amazing introduction question, icebreaker, is what was your first ever email address? And that always gets a lot of people giggling with their slightly outrageous hotmail.com addresses from the mid-90s. Which is really interesting, and then ages certain people as well. So just really try, and I think the role of actually being an MC as a leader on these types of calls, all hands calls and stuff as well, is a crucial skill that managers need to develop. Like, I remember even this past week, well, in October, when we had our offsite in Belfast with 30 whatever people, the team were like, we want you to drop more video messages into Slack. We want you to be dropping more, hey, we're struggling with this week, we're doing well here. And it's just funny, like everybody really digs that, it seems, and to kind of build that trust.
Yeah, I think, tied into that kind of the Thursday kind of all hands, because that's when we have ours as well. It's that if people are joining the call and everyone's got the camera off, something's going on. It's having the ability as the MC to kind of go, come on guys, let's get talking, what's going on? Is everyone busy? What's kind of going on?
Yeah.
Turn your camera off then.
Well, no, that was
good timing.
And yeah. So when were you, let's get practical back to physical space now for a moment. When were you originally thinking, hey, we're going to have a bit more of a steady state? And what's that looking like now? With new variants on the rise, what's that looking like now for you? Can you do some crystal ball gazing for our audience?
Yeah, I think if we go right back, so when we went into lockdown,